Welcome to the Shamanism Summit, an extraordinary gathering of teachers and healers from around the planet, sharing insights, stories, principles, and sacred ritual for personal and collective healing and transformation. Please share this event with your friends and family, and come join us on Facebook at The Shift Network. And now your host, HeartherAsh Amara.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for the Shamanism Summit. And I'm so blessed to introduce you to our guest today, Banafsheh Sayyad. And she is a mover and force of nature, as you will see very soon. So I'm going to read her bio. Master Persian sacred dancer, choreographer, transformational teacher, and founder of Dance of Oneness. Banafsheh performs and teaches internationally, initiating people into the wisdom of their body, awakening the sacred feminine within, and inspiring them to live everyday life as magical. Welcome so much. So glad that you're joining us today, Banafsheh.
Thank you so much, HeartherAsh. I'm so happy to be with you and to dive in together into themes that I'm passionate about. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, I want to share a quote from your website because I think this sums up what I want to step into today with you, which is she invokes the ancient roots of dance as devotion, prayer, and adoration. Yes. So I consider you a mystic of movement and of life. And even though we've had very few conversations, there's this incredible heart that you bring to everything that you do. So I'd love you to share your background, how you came to connect with dance, how that was in your culture, and what you now bring forward.
Thank you so much, HeartherAsh. The quote, what you quoted, is absolutely what I'm passionate about and what I have devoted my whole life to. And when I began dancing, which was a couple thousand years ago, it was, I was unstoppable. As a little child, I was unstoppable, and that's all I wanted to do all the time. And even though I come from a lineage of performing artists, my father is a very famous filmmaker, director, theater director, and actor. And his father and his grandfather, they were all in the performing arts. But for some reason, and the reason, of course, is cultural, they didn't think that, this little girl who's so in love with dancing should go to dance class, should be sent to dance school. None of that, because in my culture and in many other cultures, especially in the Middle East, dance is seen as something shameful, something that is brings degradation. And so I wasn't allowed to do that, yet I danced anyway on my own, and I trained myself. And from as far back as I remember, my other passion was also, why am I here? What is the purpose of life? What is life? What is God? And so this longing to understand the deeper reason of why I'm here and who is God came together with dance, and the two of them just merged over time. And I began to dance my connection with divinity or with the mystery of life. And through dancing, I was able to understand in a visceral way, in a feeling, on the level of feeling, what I was meant to do. And I've always basically understood on the level of movement. Yeah, that has been my gateway. Did I answer your question in a very briefly?
Absolutely. And was there a point that your parents ever came back and supported you because they saw what was happening? Or did you have to strike out on your own?
That's a great question. What I was describing to you, my experience of not being supported in pursuing dance, was when I was living in Iran with my family. And we left Iran, we left in my background, we left twice. Once was when I was a little girl, And then we went back. When we went back, the revolution had already happened and the system had already changed. So I lived there also as a young teenager. And so throughout my childhood being in Iran and as a teenager, I wasn't supported in pursuing dance. But then we immigrated to the US, and at that time I was 15. And then, after a few years of being in the US, I just felt that I can do what I want. I can pursue my passion. Here we were in the land of the free. And so that's what I did. When I went to college, I studied flamenco, and I quickly became a performer of flamenco, even though I had just started, because I felt somehow in my being that I knew this form. When I saw it for the first time, I was like, oh, I know exactly what this is. I've seen it before. I've done it before. And once my career in dance began, and I was very inspired, and I got a lot of support from my teacher and other students and people around me, I announced that this is it. This is going to be my career. And that was when the big opposition showed its face. And not only were my parents not supportive, our relatives back in Iran thought I was going to bring shame and degradation to the family name, and all of this drama ensued. But and having no support except from my younger sister, I went ahead anyway. I was like, I'm here to pursue what I love, and if I'm not doing that, there's no reason to be here. This is what I'm doing.
So inspirational. And that deep knowing in your bones from when you were a child of both movements, my pathway to the divine, and also that question. Now I see it's like that moving towards the divine and the divine moving towards you, of the question, what is God? How do I bring this into form?
Yes,
so powerful.
This response of dance toward me, dance your way toward me. That's your way. That's how you will come to understand. That's how you will come to know me.
And can you share, I think a lot of people don't have information about Persian culture and how beautiful and rich and devotional Persian culture is and has been for thousands and thousands of years. So if you could bring some of that understanding, that would be beautiful.
Thank you for that question. Yes, I mean, for the past 30 years, we hear more about the political unrest and the terrible, tragic injustice that it has overtaken my country, that has overtaken Iran, and that's mostly how Iran is in the news and in people's minds, right? Like a group of terrorists or a government that kills its people ruthlessly, and those are true. That is the reality of what we're facing these days, and have been for the past since the late 70s, unfortunately. But the Persian culture is a far more ancient, far richer culture than this immediate situation that we're experiencing now. And we understand Persian culture through the works of Rumi. We understand Persian culture through the works of the amazing poets like Hafiz, and the incredible mysticism that is embedded in these poets' works, in this poetry, and in the incredible architecture, the designs that you see in carpets, that you see in paintings. But mostly in the poetry, I would say, there is the manifestation and the expression of what the ancient culture has been throughout time. It's really one of the cultures, one of the human expressions that really adore beauty, really put beauty up as the highest, and love becomes an adoration of beauty. And beauty is what we're inspired to not only have as an ideal, but to actually live it, beautiful conduct, beautiful thoughts, beautiful words. So this is a big part of the culture. This is a very big part of the culture that I'm very inspired by, that I feel also in my bones and in what is important for me to express through the dance.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk more around the dance. And I want to just emphasize this because, as you said so beautifully or so eloquently, like many of us for our lifetime or for much of our adult life have known Iran in this one way, as a dictatorial, like very repressive regime and culture. And yet there's this incredible history of mysticism and prayer through poetry. Everybody knows Rumi, but not everybody links it back to where the roots are. I had a dear friend that was Persian, and I remember one time we did a road trip and we listened to Persian music the whole time, and she translated for me the words. And I cried the whole time because of the incredible love of the divine and desire for beauty and the yearning. And I know that's something that you bring forth through your body, that you're taking so often the poetry, the way the poetry has been expressed, and translated it into your body to show, to experience and show. So can you talk about that merging of expression that you do through your body and how you bring people into that?
Mm-hmm. I want to also touch upon what you said about the yearning, because the yearning and the longing is so much a part of the dance, the music, the poetry. All of the expression of the culture has that aspect in it. And it's based in how once we were in complete union, the human and the divine were in union. And then that separation happened, and then everything is about this yearning to return. And that brings that tinge of sadness, which is also very beautiful and very deep. Yes. And the other thing I wanted to add about the Persian culture is, the Declaration of Human Rights. The first reference to human rights comes from Cyrus the Great, one of the Persian kings. And that has influenced a lot of people, and it has influenced a lot of cultures. And the idea of equality of all people was something that was important to him, and that was how he ruled. And there was a period of this incredible, glorious golden age where the government of Cyrus the Great really tried to establish equality of all people, all races and gender. It was quite amazing. And this declaration is still something that is referred to all the time in terms of what is the ideal of democracy. The reference goes back to him and his Declaration of Human Rights.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's an important piece. And I think that the mysticism and the yearning and the coming together and equality is all something that is almost hidden in plain sight, that we just have to be willing to dig a little bit deeper. And I think often as Westerners, we move away from yearning. We don't want to yearn. We want fulfillment. And the power of yearning is actually everything, yearning for the divine.
That's it. That's so beautifully put. Yeah. That and the idea that it continues. As long as we're in human form, it continues, and it colors all of our all of our living, really, and it makes us empathetic to pain and to other people's suffering, to animals' suffering. It makes us understand the pain and the suffering that is part of life, but see it in a way that is that becomes creative, and inspires art that is deep, that's not just one layered, you know.
Yeah.
But the question you asked me about expression, how do I express what I'm talking about? Is that what you're saying? Is that your question?
Yeah, and how do you, because you express so fully with your entire being, and you also bring people into the experience through that expression.
Yes, yes. Yes, for me, you know, dance. Let's just talk specifically about dance, although this applies to all art, of course. But dance invites us to bring all of ourselves to the expression. Whether you're, regardless of what your ability is, regardless of how much technique you have, how many years you've danced, how well you're able to express it, there's still the invitation of bring all of yourself to this, and bring your strength and bring your fragility, bring your power and your vulnerability, and put it all into this expression, into this cauldron, and see what comes out of it. For me, that's why I was so attracted, when I first saw flamenco. That's why I was so attracted to it, because it is a form that invites us not to shy away from pain and from suffering and from emotions that are hard to handle, like anger and grief. It actually fuels the movement. You know, you find expression through them, and then you're able to transform them. You're able to transform yourself by going deeply into exactly what you would be afraid of dealing with. So the way I approach dance is that it gives us the ability to handle these volatile emotions, states, and not shy away from them. How can you dance them? How can you express them in a way that becomes art? And so I invite people, I invite my students, I invite everyone to develop your capacity to do that. If you're inspired to, for example, express what I said through the body, then dedicate yourself to cultivating the technique and the ability to do that. And so that's what I have done all my life. I felt this great impulse to express what was moving through me. And I knew in order to do that the best that I could, I needed to dedicate to developing technique. So every single day I have for as long as I can remember done these movements to develop my ability to cultivate the instrument. And that's what musicians do. That's what painters do. You do it every day so that you harness the technique, so that your instrument can serve what wants to move through it in the best way. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And I think so many people have sometimes the image of dance is this one thing, or it's the technique, or it's this thing out there. And what I hear you saying is that dance is universal, and that it is that it's a way for us to empty out and to fill. But that the emptying out is about not just, I don't want these things, but I'm bringing everything in to move it through the body, to then open to what's unknown or what's unspoken.
Beautifully put. Both the emptying and the filling, they're both part of the dance. Both of them are what is in the process. So we're not emptying just to fill. The emptying is also part of it. You know, that shedding is also part of it. That's part of the whole process. And the filling and the expressing after you have filled is not actually better than the other one. They're both part of it. They're both part of it. It's like our lungs, you know, you take a breath in and your lungs expand, and you exhale and they contract. If your lungs said, no, I don't want to do the contraction, I just want to expand, we would die, we would expire. So that's why it's important that we honor also the releasing, the contracting, and that all of it is part of grace. All of it is about the expression of grace. You see that, a lot of modern dance, for example, is like that. So much of it is about expressing the anger and the suffering, and people throw themselves around, and you shatter your body in a way. That's part of it. That's part of the expression. If we just want to be in the exaltation, that's just half of the equation.
So how do we find the courage to go towards those hard places, the breaking open, the emptying?
It's exactly courage, isn't it? It's exactly courage, and trusting that's the way. That's the way. The experience of the grief and the suffering, the anger. These are all our material. These are all the material that we need to move through, to see and move through in order to reach that place of liberation, to reach that place, to free ourselves from the shackles of what brings us the anger and the grief. The courage. That exactly takes courage and trusting in the process, that you cannot bypass these things. You need to move through them. That's the only way. And we can bypass forever and ever, but at the end of the day, we still have to move through, right? There's so much numbing that happens, whether it's with medication or however other ways there are. And I'm not saying that those are bad things. Everyone has their way, and everyone needs to live their life on the path that they feel that they choose. But you numb and you numb and you numb, and at the end of the day, you still have to face, you still have to go through it. So it's important to have community, HeartherAsh, to have community, and you and I are speaking right now, and you understand what I'm saying, and you're understanding what I'm saying, and you're resonating with what I'm saying gives me courage to believe that what I'm doing is worthwhile, and that that I should go that way as I'm feeling it. So community becomes very important, community of like-hearted, like-minded beings.
It's so vital. And especially in something like movement, or really any art. But I think in movement, to be with other beings that are moving and to learn how to move differently than you would normally move, and how to step out of the familiar, is so liberating, because we're all then sharing the pathway out of the familiar, and supporting each other of like, keep going, keep exploring, keep expanding.
Exactly. And even in these times where, most of us are in quarantine, restrictions are loosening up a little bit, but we're still, most of us, in quarantine. And we've been dancing, my community, we've been dancing on Zoom. And at first I thought, wow, this is going to be so strange. I don't know if I want to do this, because it's so important to be in the same space when we're dancing, and there's something that happens with the synergy and the energy when people are together. But it has been working, and it's that energy that moves through the heart when we're dancing in a way that we're not afraid to be vulnerable. We're not afraid to be frail. We're not afraid to look not perfect. When you're not afraid of all these things, then you come into your heart in a way that is that is so expansive that the energy of it is shared by others. They feel it. You're being your authentic self. And if it's on Zoom, it still works. It's amazing.
It is amazing that the energy translates.
Yeah, it's so big, it's so powerful that that the restrictions of technology actually become tools, right? We're not really together, but actually we sense how our energy can merge even if our bodies are not in the same space. Amazing.
It is amazing.
It shows us that we're unlimited.
And that connection is so deep.
Yeah.
Inside all of us and between all of us.
Yeah. And all it takes is really to be authentic, to be yourself, and trust that.
Mm-hmm. So simple and so deep. And I always find the most potent wisdom is the one that has that simplicity and almost childlike. I was thinking about that, like when we were kids, we were so free, and that you weren't scared to move your body. Like for most of us, we can have that remembrance of what it was like to be absolutely innocent and non-self-conscious. And getting out of that self-consciousness of what I should look like, what I want other people to perceive me. Oh, well, this part of my body isn't right, or I don't know how to do this. That beyond all of that, once we're willing to step in, everything falls away. And we get to that place of oneness.
Yeah, yeah. And to actually also even dance your thoughts of like, do I look good? How to dance it? Don't let that go just so easily. Try to be in it and see how it feels. To want to impress, and then how is it different when you're not wanting to impress, that you're just expressing, letting it move through you. We want to come to a place where we are danced, and to come to that place where we can be danced, where you're moved, you need to move through all of this stuff and not bypass any of it. And then you start laughing at all of it too, But it's true. Dance is one of those things, and so is actually all of the arts that connect us with that innocence, with that real simple love for being alive. It's immediate that way. Dance, especially. That's why when people are happy, they get up and dance, and it shows you how instinctively. It is the way most of us express joy.
Yes, it is how we celebrate instinctually. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I never forget what Clarissa Pinkola Estes says. She says, "Dance is the joy of the soul." It's perfect. It's true.
It is so true. And getting to undo all the conditioning and step forward. And I can feel in you and in people that I know that use their bodies in really like embodied ways that are coming in, that are so often we think, oh, I'm supposed to go out to get to spirit. But this idea of coming in to spirit and embodying spirit, and that the dance then moves into your life. It's not separate any longer from anything else. It's part of the flow.
I love what you're saying. Exactly. It's finding that immanent divinity and celebrating the divine as inside me. If there is a divine, how can I be apart from it? If there is spirit, how can I not be that? And so it brings you in touch with exactly that without words. You actually literally feel it. And I'm actually also very blown away by how it has so many psychological levels too. We're right now journeying into the chakras with my group. Where the sessions that I'm teaching are based on the chakras, and we're journeying into the first chakra, and all of the relatedness and our connection with our community and our tribes and our family. And with very simple words, but mostly through movement and through dance, we were unpacking so much of the what had been going on unconsciously. And as much as, of course, therapy with words is so crucial, and I'm such a supporter of it, there seemed to be something moving in people that I didn't even expect in such a primal way, that you could actually move through the dramas and the psychological entanglements just through moving them. I'm always surprised myself at the depth and at the profundity of how movement and dance, in a way where you're not bypassing, how powerful it can be, how therapeutic and healing it is. That's why our ancestors knew that dance was the way to come into union with spirit and with all that is. From the beginning of time as we know it, for humans, dance has been one of the major ways, one of the main ways that people came into that oneness and the wholeness, and used it as healing and in therapeutic ways, clearly directly therapeutic ways, right?
And I love what you said, and I want to underscore this because it's a really big brain rewire, which is you're not dancing to get out of something. You're dancing to be in the experience fully. And it's not, I'm going to empty myself of this, or I'm going to move through this so I can get to the joy. It's holding all of it. And like you're saying, so many of our ancestors of all different places around the globe have used dance not to get out, but to get in and to express all of life.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the way. And then the joy that comes from that is so profound. It's so lasting compared to, oh, I'm just going to bypass and go to the joy. That's very short-lived. It can feel good, it's a temporary fix,
And how have you stabilized that in your body? So what challenges have you gone through that you've used dance as the medicine to honor and find that larger joy?
Beautiful question. For me, a lot of my healing comes through whirling, through the practice of whirling. The practice of whirling in a way that's not moving into what has been taught as this is the way to do it, which is an outside-in type of approach, but from the inside out. So turning, and then seeing what appears, the different movements that come from that, keeping the turn, keeping the spin. I've used that, or it has been given to me, it has arrived in me as a way to move through all the different states that I may be experiencing in the moment, the different voices, the different concerns and fears, and just hearing them, listening to them as I just keep going. I keep going and maintaining the turn, letting these thoughts and these feelings, these monkey mind chatter, just dissolve, and even having a conversation with that part of myself, saying, thank you very much, yes, all of your points are fabulous, great, I'll hear them, yes, but listen, I'm going to a place where you don't have a part anymore. I'm moving further, I'm moving deeper and more, going further in that you actually don't have a part there anymore. For example, the voices that say, what are you doing? Why are you turning around yourself? This must be the most stupid thing that anyone could do. Why are you doing this? Of course, that doesn't happen to me anymore because I've had to deal with that, years ago in the beginning. but listening to that and saying, okay, yeah, okay, this is your point of view, all right, and then, but keep going, and then it just kind of melts away. It just doesn't have a place anymore in the totality. It was this tiny place, and you didn't fight it. You didn't say no. You can't do this, and I'm not going to listen. You just allow it, and then it just melts away. So that's one way. That's one way that I've dealt with my psychological, stories and issues. But I do what does arrive in me right now, as you're saying that, is going back to what I shared with you about my relatives and the people around me being against the dance. Here I was at the age of a little bit, 20, something like that, where I said dance was going to become my career, and people said, "How could you do that? You didn't start as a little girl. Everybody whoever wants to make dance as a career has to have started when they were like this big, had to have started when they were in the womb of their mother." And I was like, yeah, I wanted to, but I wasn't allowed to do that, as in a formal way. So once I decided that that's what I was going to do, and I went into the master's program at UCLA, the MFA in dance. This is what I was going to do, and I was going to do it not just to say that this is what my work is, but also to bring Persian dance to a level of recognition, because Persian dance has also not been like of dances of other cultures like flamenco or different dances, hasn't been systematized. And one reason that it wasn't really systematized was because of the religious view of dance. The Islamic view of dance is sinful. So going into a higher education place for dance was for myself to say, this is what I'm doing, and I'm dedicating to this, but also for Persian dance, to bring it to a place of recognition. But then I realized, as I was doing the choreography, as I was choreographing dances, that the biggest opposer of me pursuing my passion and my dream was me. I had so many of these voices in myself that said, "You're bringing shame. A good woman is a quiet woman, is a woman that does what she's told." In my culture, not just not heard, but also not seen. That's the way a woman should be. And the voices in my head that said, "Why do you have to do this? Why can't you just dance in your living room and put on some music and dance for yourself, but pursue a career that's more, honorable?" I had to fight against these voices in my own head, and I felt that it wasn't just me, the individual me, but I was carrying this whole lineage of women who had felt oppressed because they wanted to express. And not just women, men too, of all people from all time, that were not supported in following their passion, and were meant to think that following their dream was not a good thing, that it didn't serve, that they should be, a sheep and follow what they're told. So that was like, wow. I was so heavy, I couldn't even get up. I was flat on my back most of the time, in tears, when I wanted to create dance, fighting against this enemy inside that was repeating everything that I was hearing from the outside, but much stronger, much more vicious. And in the face of that, I just didn't give up. I was shattered, and I would do a dance that was about being shattered. And how do you rise? Yeah.
So inspirational.
I hope so. I mean, there's a reason why we're here, and it's not to be a follower, that's for sure. Rumi says, gamble everything for love. Gamble everything for love. Otherwise, leave this circle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So perfect, because I was going to ask you, share a Rumi, like one of your favorite Rumi poems or quotes, and then you did. So thank you.
That's one of them. That's a hard one, actually, to what is my favorite. I mean, there's
Yes.
so many. So many. And that's why people love him so much. He understands the brokenness so well. Yeah. He understands that so well. And he's the voice of, you can endure, but don't shy away, because what pains you is actually your gift. It's what will open
Yeah. And the wisdom of what I think of as earth-based traditions or embodied traditions is that willingness to go through, not to get somewhere, but to live the experience of life fully, to let it break us open. And that is also such a shamanic vision of the breaking open and the willingness to let go of the ego and the small container so that we can become a much larger container. So for our last question, will you share how the shamanic principles, we can say, and practices are part of the dance and part of the message that you bring?
I like that. Well, the way I see shamanic practice as a dance person, as a movement person, is how can dance, how can movement, in the way that I've been describing, open us to sensing that we're really miraculous beings, that we're endless and unlimited, and not just the in our heads, in our ideas, or in the way that we can envision, but literally through the physical body, that the physical body itself is truly unlimited. So that's what I'm interested in. That's what I'm interested in, because when I think about the shamanic practices, is the way that you tune into how you are an unlimited being, a creative being. And for me, sacred dance, whirling, what we do, dance of oneness, which is a sacred dance, and it has the dimension of whirling in a very central, as a central practice to it. We literally become miraculous beings. We literally live the miraculous through this way of dancing, through coming into wholeness, and through sensing that we are part of the earth, that we are the earth, and the earth is in your roots, and you rise toward the heavens. You rise towards spirit, and you become a bridge between the visible and the invisible, bringing messages from the visible to the invisible, and the invisible to the visible, and the crucible where matter and spirit make love. So in that way, to live from that place of being truly unlimited, no matter what age, what shape you're in, what is your gender, what is your color, no matter what, that is possible, that is there, that opportunity to be miraculous. I have people who've danced with me in their 90s, and it's just so amazing. It's so amazing that we can tune into how we're eternal beings in the body. In the body. I from the Kabbalah, I'm so inspired by this statement that in this, here is where we are perfected on all dimensions. And that's so profound. I hear here as here in this body, in this what has been considered the cage of the soul for so many different mystics, which is, to me, absolutely untrue. It's just not that way. The cage is our thinking.
Yeah. Yes.
Not this body, this gift, this amazing, amazing instrument. Did I answer your question?
Yes. So good.
Thank you.
Yes. I love the passion that comes through and the stillness. You're such a reflection of the marriage of deep stillness that you can feel. And I hope everybody can feel as you're listening and watching, and the passion and the expression. And may we all bring both together and not stop separating. This is good, this is bad, this is the right way to do it, this is the wrong way to do it. All of it.
Exactly, all of it. That's the invitation, HeartherAsh. All of it, all of us, all of ourselves, all of the earth community. Oh. And it's true, what you say. The dance brings me, the dance for me is both. It's the stillness and the movement. It's not just in the movement. It's not just in, oh, how much I can move. It's how still are you? Because it's the two together. It's the dance between the stillness and the movement. The movement is not any more important than the stillness. And the movement comes out of the stillness and goes back into the stillness. That's what you're saying also reminds me of how, as much as I love music and I love to dance, I think my most favorite thing is silence and stillness. Because that contains all of it, doesn't it?
Thank you so much for sharing your passion and your stillness with us, Banafsheh. I'm so grateful for you. And blessings to everyone for joining. And may you move, may we all move more and find more stillness in everything that we do.
Thank you so much, HeartherAsh. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening, for joining. It's been a pleasure.
Good. Blessings to everyone.
Thank you for joining us for the Shamanism Summit, brought to you by the Shift Network. To learn more about our programs and events, visit theshiftnetwork.com. Thank you again for gathering with us and for sharing this empowering path with your friends and family.